Honey, what are you thinking?
Guess what time it is? It's time for another podcast where I break down what the ladies think about what goes around in guys' minds. Basically, actually, it's what guys think, not what ladies think. That would probably be better done by a lady. And since I'm a man, I can quite frankly break it down a little bit different in what goes through a man's mind, right? And today we'll be talking about whether the question basically is, do you view your relationship as a team or as individuals? And as a man, I'll talk about how we tend to view it, and I'll give different viewpoints of how we think about it and why we take a relationship as a team or as an individual. First of all, let me start with the first. We view relationships as a team rather than as individuals. We are dating, or maybe we are married. So personally, I'll be taking it as a team rather than as an individual. I mean, as a team, we do things together. It's basically us against the world, so to say. And for various reasons, it's always the two of us against anyone or anything else, no matter what happens. It's always about backing up my partner. It doesn't matter who's attacking her or who's against her or who doesn't like her or whichever case it might be. It's always the two of us first against the rest of them. And that's how it usually works in most times. Quite frankly, it's the same case with her. Like, she'll be there for me no matter what I'm going through, and regardless of who might be against me. So after that, we can always go and figure out whether I was in the wrong or I was in the right, or if she was in the wrong or in the right. But when it's the two of us, it's us against anyone or anything else. That's the way it's supposed to be, I assume, for couples. And those who do that, those who stick together regardless of what's happening around them, those who work as a team, it always ends up better. They tend to stick together for much longer, and they have a better, more fruitful relationship. Number two, if your relationship feels different, maybe it's not much of a team. If you don't feel like your partner backs you up when you need his help, he's not there for you when you need him, it just might not be a teamwork. It might be he's more single-minded. He sees it more as two individuals working on something, but he doesn't really value your input, or he just doesn't want to feel like to be part of a team. He just wants to do it his own way. In that case, then both of you are probably not doing it as a team. The right way to do it would be as a team. And so you guys are not doing it that way. That takes some time. Like, you need to sit down, talk over it, maybe. It's always good to have, if both of you can see the problem or get to the bottom of it, it's always good to see somebody who knows how relationships work, and somebody who can actually give you good advice and help you come out of that problem or solve the problem. Next point is being super defensive. In all cases, when one partner, let's say the man in this case, is not willing to accept any fault or anything he did, it kind of points out that he's not necessarily being a team player. That just means he's not willing to participate as a team player, or he has something else going on. When you're super defensive, it just means you can't see the fault, or he doesn't want to admit it. Personally, I might have a problem seeing where I contributed or where I went wrong. But with time, if the lady points it out and explains it, and I see the fault, I see the problem, I listen and I accept it. So if he's not willing to accept the fault, and yet it's very clear, might be ego, that might be one thing. At the end of the day, he doesn't consider the relationship as a team. Might be just an individual thing to him, and he just wants it his own way. Probably not the best thing for you for that kind of relationship. Being super defensive, not willing to listen, not willing to hear out the other party, cutting them out in the conversation, in an argument. Definitely not good. And there are times either of you might be a little bit overloaded, right, with work, with life, and the other party might seem a little bit distant. So maybe he might not be as affectionate or showering you with the attention he usually does. It happens when we have our hands full and can't wait to basically just run out of the door after barely touching the breakfast. But in most cases, we always make up for it. We make it up in no time. If this has become like we try and make up for it, we know that sometimes we are a little busy, we are held up, our brains are full. But once we are done with whatever we have or whatever we were going through, we try and make it up to you. But if this has become the new norm, he feels disconnected, he's not who he was before, he doesn't appreciate anything, then there might be something else going on. So if this happens once in a while, maybe when he's up to something, you know him better, right? So this might just indicate, you probably know that he's just going through something. But if it becomes the new norm, he's not there, he's just completely different, disconnected, he's no longer a team player. But if it just happens, sometimes you know that maybe he's going through something at work, maybe he's trying to get a new promotion, something of the sort, then you'll realize you know how he deals with different situations. So he's not necessarily being an individual, he's still a team player just going through something. Same way he knows you better, he knows when you're anxious or nervous about something, so he knows how to handle it. But if it becomes the long term, that's the way they become, then completely different case. Time to think about how to address it and how to handle it. Either way, they should always find a way to make you comfortable no matter what the other party is going through. There should always be a middle ground to making sure everything's well taken care of. Everybody's feelings are well taken care of. Moving on, communication. With communication, you should always be able to say what you feel. You should have the freedom to explain yourself and to say how you feel, and to also allow the other party to communicate how they feel. It's a two-way street. It's not about one person. And if you can't communicate how you feel, or he can't communicate how he feels, then there's something obstructing both of you from actually communicating better. Have him listen to you. It might not always go as smoothly with him all the years, but that should be extended. He should at least try and give you the time when you need to express yourself. We know arguments and disagreements, they do happen, but you shouldn't always be the one taking the fault. This is what I'm talking about. Furthermore, you should be comfortable enough to express yourself and to get him to see things from your perspective. It's not always about what he thinks or what he perceives or based on what he thinks he knows. Things tend to be different. It's not always the same way. So he should basically try to understand where you're coming from based on what you're saying. And that usually it requires him to settle down, relax, and actually listen without trying to interrupt, without trying to say what he thinks. Just takes time he needs to settle down and listen. And arguments are good in a relationship to a certain degree. We know you cannot have a relationship without ever having disagreements or arguments. So they show you're both willing to work at something. When you're having an argument, it shows you're both willing to fight it out in a good way and get to the bottom of it. But if not, it's not a good sign, because it basically means that you've just both thrown in the towel, you've given up, and none of you is willing to give it the time, or to give it your time or your energy. So it's a different way of looking at disagreements and arguments. So don't always take it negatively. It's a way for both of you to look deep at the situation and find out why you're both seeing it in a different way and how you can both solve it. That's what teamwork does. If it's an individual, you can never see eye to eye because everybody wants it their own way. But when you work as a team, you'll always remember you're doing it for your own good, because you love each other for the relationship, not for one party to benefit, but for both of you. If it's one-sided, you can not quite meet it at the middle. But if it's both of you trying to come to a realization and to solve a problem, it will always work out. Because number one, you're both willing to swallow your pride. If either of you has pride or ego, or both of you, you're willing to settle down for your own good, or for the good of both of you. I hope you got that right. Let's move on. If we are a team, I forgot to mention too. So remember, it would be a red signal. That's a red signal if you're both not willing to work out something. So of course, maybe once in a while you need a little bit of time to get your emotions in check. So just because he wants a little bit of time, I'm not talking about weeks or months. I'm talking about a few minutes, sometimes maybe a few hours. Maybe he needs a drive or a walk or a run, or you probably. So, but you know each other, and he probably does that, then it's back to normal. And then you guys can talk it out, but just don't try to force it at the time when it's most heated. If he needs a few minutes to relax and think about it, no problem. He'll come through. I mean, yeah, you should. If you guys have been dating for a while, or you know him back, you've known him for a while, you know how he works it out. If he's not willing to work at it at that particular moment, just give it a few minutes. He'll come back and you guys will solve it the way you've always done it. All right, moving on. If we are a team, I'll try and make interactions a norm. However, if I think of the relationship as an individual, don't be surprised if I'm constantly picking fights, trying to win every argument, trying to prove my point, not willing to listen to your point of view. So don't be surprised if I'm constantly doing that. That just means I don't take the relationship and both of us as a team. I'm probably disgruntled by something you did, and I just don't have the guts to revisit it. Probably those are grudges. I'm still holding on to a grudge, something you did before. And if that's the case, it just means I don't really take us as a team anymore. Because when I take you as a team, I consider you as an equal, and I'm willing to work through anything. But maybe something that happened and I kind of just blew it off or let it slide, but I still hold on to it and I don't feel happy about it. That might drive a wedge and make me believe we are no longer a team. Maybe it was a form of betrayal. So I kind of still feel it and I hold on to it. And once in a while it rears its ugly head and pushes me into doing something like picking up a fight or revisiting the same thing you did. I might not point it out just like that, but I might throw in clues. Maybe I might mention, oh, what about this? What about that? Hoping that you'll go and point it out. Basically leaving breadcrumbs, and which will always lead to the situation or to the problem I want to address. If I mention something you did just to bring it up or revisit it, just means that I'm not okay with it, right? With something that might have happened or something you might have done. And as a team player would let you know how he feels about it. A team player loves you and is willing to work it out. An individual, it might just mean that I'm past trying to work it out with you. Maybe it was something I never expected and I just don't want to face it. And therefore, I decide to bury it. And basically, it might be a way of, unless you find a way to make me feel better about whatever you might have done, that might be one of the few things that kind of breaks relationships if it was probably that bad. No matter what happens, or unless we get some real help. And yeah, that's just about it, but let's move on. If you meet at the middle once in a while and the other needs to I think if we meet at the middle in most cases, that's usually, quite frankly, just alright for the relationship, rather than one person always having to go the extra mile. If once in a while each of us might have to go the extra mile, but if it's always one party, it's too much for one person to handle. When I feel like I'm the only one always trying to extend my hand, always trying to help, always trying to put the effort in, while The other party just seems to take it lying down. They don't really care much about it. That's not good for either party. You feel like your part in the relationship, it's not appreciated what you're bringing into the relationship. So regardless of what we do or what line of work we are in, it's always good to consider the other party. What I'm talking about here, when I'm talking about regardless of your different occupations, our lives might not meet much. Like our lines of work might be so different and different schedules, but I should find a way to bring us together once in a while. And I should also find a way to involve you in some of the work stuff that I do. And same thing with you. If I have a colleague day and meeting, I should, or a retreat with couples, I should find a way to bring you in. Same thing with you. That's how, regardless of how different our lines of work are, we still find a way to interact and kind of interweave our lives and our jobs, not just our lives. So that's how you know we are a team. The fact that we are able to come together as a couple, our lives should meet at several junctures, right? Yeah, I mean, our jobs, not just our lives. So, like like I mentioned, when invited out by some colleagues, once in a while you'll tag along, or when you're invited to something, I'll tag along. Not always, but just sometimes. So if that's not happening, like it's almost like we are complete strangers, then we are not necessarily a team. You don't know much about what I do, no matter. You know what I do, but you never get a chance to interact with the people that I work with. Same thing with you. So we are not really working as a team here. We are more of individuals. Let's move on. Trying to please. Let's say you're always trying to please me. We are dating, and you're always trying to please me. Yet it just doesn't seem to have any effect. Imagine putting all that work in a relationship but getting nothing much in return. That indicates we are not working as a team. It's more of an individual effort. Putting in the work but getting nothing in return. No, it should not be working out like that. Not even a thank you. I mean, that's scary and downright depressing. Nobody wants to be in that kind of situation where I'm the only one putting in the work, trying everything I can, willing to take it without fighting back. But it gets to a point where you need to pull some of the weight, if I can put it that way. So that's what I assume when I mention teamwork, and that's what I mean. So we should be sharing some of what's going on, and we should pick up some of the slack, right? So, and in any relationship, we do little things for each other. So we should never feel like you should never feel like you're the only one trying, and I should never feel like I'm the only one trying. You should always feel like we are both trying and we are both doing something about it. That's the only way to get it to work. And different point. If it's always about him and what he wants, not a good sign. That's not teamwork. It should be about both of you. If he can't change his schedule once in a while to fit you in, or your commitments, then you're not a team. Both of you have to once in a while change your plans or whatever you've laid out to do to accommodate each other. In a relationship, both sides should chip in equally in different ways. Sometimes you need to do a little bit more, and sometimes he needs to pick up a little bit of the slack or to do a little bit more. No one party should feel used or not appreciated. As a team, I make sure I do some of what she wants. Definitely not always about me. There are times she needs me to do something that I might not necessarily like that much. Maybe I need to visit a relative that I don't fancy, but I'll definitely do it for her because it's better than if she's asking me to do that. It just means that she needs me there. So it's not always about me and what I think or what I feel. Once in a while, it's about the other person and what they think is best for themselves or for both of you. So don't always think about yourself. Guys, that's what I mean. So ladies, if he's always doing that, pointing out that it's not always about them, show them that there are things that you do, not just because you like them, but because they like it, not because you love it. I'm sure there are a couple of things like that that should help him see that it's not always about how they feel or what they want. Moving on, if my partner kind of feels alone, it probably means I'm not making them feel as if you're a team. And definitely, if you're going through that where you're feeling alone, then your relationship is not a team. There are times she's going through something. Maybe she's frustrated at work, family, or with friendships. But as a team, I'm there to listen and share what I think would be the best way forward for her. If I can't put down the phone, stop whatever I'm doing, listen for a few minutes as she speaks her heart out, if I don't take her seriously enough or even consider her an equal in the relationship, I mean, simple stuff like if she's talking a little bit, just eye contact. Your body language says if you're listening or not. Facing in her direction, or you're obviously not giving her your back as she's letting you know how she feels or what she's going through. Facing away from her all the time she's talking. No, that's not teamwork. Teamwork means being there for her when she's happy and when she's sad. Whether you guys, it's the same thing when you're having sex, you're acting as a team, hopefully. And when she's not, and when you're not having sex, same thing, you guys are happy. So pretty much the same way you're happy, this is for guys, well, this pretty much the same way when you're happy, when you're having sex and all that. It should be the same way you're willing to stick with her when she's going through something. It should not be different. It's not always about what you want and what you think. So that's what I meant by, ladies, if he's not giving you that enough attention, especially when you're going through something, let him know you're not happy about that. And you'd appreciate it if he actually listened and paid attention. If he's still not willing to do that, you're probably not a team. He's more of an individual. He thinks only of himself. Next point, holding grudges. Most guys tend to not hold grudges unless it's something a little bit personal. If for one, I feel we are not a team anymore, or I've never considered as a team, I'll definitely hold grudges. Probably. But for one, if we are a team, I'll feel bad for you, no matter what you've done. Right? Of course, there are things that I just can't forget about, but I'll go to that later. But regardless of what you've done in most situations, I'll feel bad for you. And instead of holding a grudge, I'll try to make you feel better. You obviously didn't mean to do it, including maybe crashing my car. And I'm obviously upset after realizing, first of all, of course, I'm scared for your safety. So after I know you're safe and you're good and there's nothing wrong, nothing happened to you, I'll obviously feel bad about the car and I might get a little bit upset about crashing it and all that. But after I've worked out all the anger, we'll move on as if nothing happened. We'll talk about it. We'll bury the hatchet because, of course, it's not like you meant to do it. And if it's all me, I'll probably... But if we're working as a team, we are a team. But if I feel or I think of it only as for myself and as an individual, definitely things change. I'll feel hurt, I'll feel broken. I'll take it personally. I'll hold on to the grudges. I'll feel like you did it to hurt me or something of the sort. Or why couldn't you just have been more careful? And probably even maybe revisit the same situation severally, revisit it countless times. But remember, if it involves cheating, though, that's not just something most guys forget. That's just something completely different. Anything else, it can be forgiven. Maybe you even beat up my mom. Please don't do that. But I'm just saying. But when it goes cheating, that's a completely different case. There is a lot that goes into that. We can always talk about that in a different topic, in a different podcast. We'll talk about that later. And moving on to Do we feel that the relationship is a team, or do we feel like individuals? So getting involved in behavior that would be termed as inappropriate just means I don't consider us as a team. If I don't have enough respect for you that I should be doing the right thing, if I'm calling, texting, or doing something of the sort with other women, I obviously don't value our relationship, especially if these people are not colleagues or family and so on. You can always tell inappropriate talk or inappropriate behavior from appropriate talk. If it's not that kind of a talk or behavior, you obviously know, you can tell. Or once in a while you might call me out, hey, what's going on? And I'll explain it. Oh, she's the workmate and all that, and you know better, right? You'll know if I'm lying or not. So if he's doing some of that, engaging in inappropriate behavior, obviously he doesn't take you, the both of you, as a team. It's more of an individual thing for him. And in that case, that's not really much of a relationship. He's willing to engage with other people unless your agreement from the first time was that you'll be having an open relationship. If not, he's obviously not following the rules, and it's time to call him out on it. Next point. If we're a team, I'll definitely respect your boundaries and not do anything I know you wouldn't like. If I know you don't like something, obviously I know there's some things you don't like, some things you wouldn't do. So I wouldn't do that because I know we have boundaries. The same thing with me. There are things I don't like and things I wouldn't do. And you wouldn't go doing them unless we've talked about it and it's something that's going to help us if we try and go through it. If we haven't really discussed it, you wouldn't just go and do it out there without letting me know. So boundaries. If he respects your boundaries, no problem. He considers you guys are basically a team. If not, you're not a team. It's all about him. Teams work together. I mean, a team couple works together even while doing chores at home. I'll do things to make life easier, especially picking up after myself. Same as basically I expect you to pick up after yourself. But I wouldn't have a problem helping out with something you're doing and personally helping me with something I'm doing. Because that's what teammates do. That's what people in a team do. They help each other out no matter what. Next point. If you want to know whether you guys are a team or an individual, personally, if we are a team, I'll give you the required space so you can flourish. If you need space and time, like hanging out with your friends, going out with family and stuff like that, I'll not have a problem with that. Why? Because I'm secure in a relationship and I respect who you are as a person and I trust you. Mainly it comes down to trust and respect, of course. But if I don't trust you, I'll have a problem with you going out without me being there. And that just means I just don't trust you. Some guys are just like that naturally. They don't trust people. They don't trust their whoever they're dating. Others, it's because they've been cheated on before or something. Somebody broke their trust. And that's a different reason. If you're the one who broke that trust, then the fact that he's not willing to let you go by yourself just means that he still has not gone beyond that. He still holds those feelings and he doesn't trust you anymore. And that's not a good place to be in because he'll always have ill feelings towards you. Even though you guys are still together and working together, he probably wouldn't want to be dating you or being in a relationship with you. And maybe if situations or circumstances were different, he'd probably be dating somebody else. He'd be out of that relationship. Because it just feels bad being in a relationship where you don't trust somebody. It's terrible. And generally, it's just a downward spiral from there. Because without trust, there's nothing much going on. So for the ladies, try and keep your man's trust. That's one of the worst things to lose. If you lose that, for most guys, it's not that easy to get it back. Especially if he's the kind of man, principled, who thinks highly of himself and others and expects the same of other people. It's always good to make sure you don't break that trust. because it hits everything to some people, to most men. Next point. As a team, I'm gonna be okay with new changes to your life. Maybe you decided to get a new hairstyle or anything else you might want to try. But usually this happens with people who've been dating for a while, people who kind of got used to each other. However, if we're just starting out, you never know how the guy might react to some new advanced changes since you don't know each other that well. Being open to changes just means I love and value you as well as the decisions you make. So I'll back it up. I'll support you. I'll support the new decision because I respect who you are, and I'd expect the same of you. If I decided to make to do something different about myself or about my life, but if you're new and he doesn't necessarily seem to favor your new decision, just don't blame him. I mean, you guys just started out, so he doesn't know you any better than that. Those who've been going on for a while, they wouldn't have a problem. If we're a team, if I take us as a team, I don't have a problem with any new decisions you make or any new changes you want to try out or you want to do, because we are a team. If I still look at us as individuals, I'll try to put it like, no, you shouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't like that, because it's at the end of the day, I'm thinking more about myself, not about you, and not about us. So it's almost being selfish, because I just want things to be done my way. And I want it to be the way that I like, not the way that you like or the way that you think you want to do it, or the way that makes you feel good about yourself. Next point. If I see us as a team, sex is usually crucial for our relationship. But as much as I love sex, or no matter how much I value it, I'll not put undue pressure on you if you're not up to it. If you're not feeling up to it on any day or time, I'll not put undue pressure on you, and I'll not expect you to perform. If one of us, maybe you or I, we're not feeling much like it, we'll just explain it and give a reason probably cut or something or do something else. There should be no need for pressure or getting angry or upset at it. To like, you always have to do it when I want it, or I always have to do it when you want it. However, and this is a big however, or a but, and this is a big but, if it becomes something of a habit or over a prolonged period of time where we're going without sex, now that becomes a little bit problematic. It becomes a problem. Because a relationship, sex plays a huge part in a relationship. If you're not doing it, or if you're not having that connection, and hopefully nobody's using it as a weapon, not the guy and not the lady, in which case, if that's what's happening, there's no teamwork. One of you is just thinking about themselves, right? I guess I'm right there, and I hope I'm right. So sex is usually a huge factor. Think about it. Make sure you guys are having it, of course, as a couple, or whichever case it might be. But without it, things tend to go downwards pretty fast, especially over a prolonged period of time. Yeah, because one or the other feels neglected. Your emotions are not in touch. There's no connection, and just goes crazy from that point on. So think about that. And if I think of us as a team, on the previous point, if I consider us as individuals, I won't really care much about the sex. Why? Because I'll be getting it from other people. I'll say, if she doesn't want it, no problem, I'll get it from other people. And basically that's not staying, and that's not healthy in a relationship. It's not like I'm working towards a relationship. But if we are a team, I'll try to talk it out, or you'll try to talk to me, and we find out a middle ground. What's happening? Why are we not doing this and that? Moving on. As a team, I'll make sure we spend quality time together. We might have the busiest of schedules. I might be an astronaut going to Mars once in a while. I know we haven't yet, but yeah, factor that in. We might be in different lines of work, demanding jobs, but once in a blue moon, we find time to spend time together and hang out, and a little bit of romance, making you feel good, taking you out and trying to keep you happy, like a dinner date, movie night, something you like. Could be anything you like. So I'll try and make sure and factor that in. However, if it's all about my day off, or if it's all about me, I'll only be thinking about what I can do on my day off, not what we can do. It will always be about me. So I'll probably think about hanging out with the boys, hanging out with my friends, drinking, coming back late at night. So basically, the one day I might be having off will be spent with other people instead of spending it with you. I know once in a while I'll need to spend time with my friends. Of course, no matter how busy our schedules are, it's a way for me to also connect with other people and with my friends. But I'll make sure we have our time. It won't always be about my friends. Quite frankly, it should usually be, most cases, it's about me and you, and then they get some of that time too. But it shouldn't be that you shouldn't be like a passenger taking the passenger seat all the time. You should always be in front there with me. We're both driving. Yeah, I know you can't do that in a real car. You can't both drive the same car, but you know what I mean. And moving on, we've mentioned spending time together, and maybe I might call it a day after this one. If we are a team, I'll value your opinions and your take on decisions. I'll tend to listen and give you my opinion or what I think about whatever you're planning or whatever you think. But at the end of the day, the decision will fall back on you, and I'll respect it. I'll not try to make you change it completely, to change your decisions. I'll, of course, show you my point of view and what I think about it, because that's why you told me. Hopefully you told me because you want to hear my perspective. And if that's what you want, I'll let you know. But I'll not try to push my opinions on you. We'll just share opinions, but at the end of the day, it will fall back on you. And if we make decisions together, we are obviously a team. That's a different point. If it's always about me making the decisions or calling the shots, I'm not really a team player. And in that relationship, you better know I'm not being a team player. If, however, I involve you in all decisions and situations and circumstances, and I value your input, we're definitely working as a team. Just the way it should be. If not, if it's all about me and what I say goes, and what I want to do, that's all that happens, it's definitely not a teamwork. It's all about me. It's all about me being the individual. I hope you learned, and I hope I covered that pretty well. And with that, I'm a head out. Thank you for listening. I'll see you later.